What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/EntitledParents. This story's called Plow My Driveway for Free. In college, I sort of accidentally got into the snow removal business around my neighborhood since I had a weird class schedule that gave me a lot of free time in the mornings and not a lot of homework. I had purchased a small Deere compact tractor as a project to tinker with in my garage in my spare time. I got it for next to nothing since the previous owner knew nothing about it and considered it to be just a stupid lawnmower and just wanted it out of his yard. Well, this thing was definitely not a lawnmower. This was a proper tractor with hydraulics and everything, just shrunk down to about the size of a Mini Cooper. The kind of thing a homeowner would use for basic maintenance work around their property that requires something a little beefier than a riding mower, but not quite a full-blown farm tractor. It was about 30 years old when I bought it, having been built sometime in the 1980s, but ran perfectly, and since the guy threw in a snowblower attachment with it, I figured I could make a little extra cash clearing driveways in the mornings before class. I had to fix a few things and added a spot to carry a shovel for the spots I couldn't get with the blower, and I was all set. Well, after the first major snowfall and just going around offering my services to neighbors, I had about 20 driveways that I would do and got the money I paid for the tractor, which admittedly wasn't much, back pretty immediately. I wasn't charging a whole lot since I was just some kid, not a professional snowplow contractor, but most people on my street were elderly and very grateful for my services and tipped me pretty heavily. There were a few people that actually seemed to enjoy shoveling their own driveway or had their own snowblower who didn't pay me to do it regularly, but they would ask me occasionally to do it as a one-time thing if the snow was super deep or they just didn't have time. One lady who lived 3 houses down from me, however, had pretty much adamantly refused my help at the beginning of the season and almost seemed offended that I thought she was incapable of shoveling her own driveway. By the way, the woman was probably 26 at most and had like 7 or 8 kids. She even had her own bus, which was a converted Ford Econoline van that she used to transport them all around in. I guess her only hobby was passionate hugging. I figured with all those kids taking up her time, she would be thrilled to have someone look after her driveway, but I guess not. February rolls around, and while my roommate, still jealous of her by the way, was on vacation down south somewhere, we got absolutely hammered with snow. Like, I'm talking 1.5 to 2 feet overnight, every night. I had to get up extra early each morning just to get everything done before I had to go to class around noon. I always just cleared a single path out of our driveway so my roommates could walk to class, and I could get the tractor out, but I never fully cleared our own driveway till last. My roommates didn't have cars, and it wasn't like I was taking my truck anywhere if I was out blowing snow. One day, I get finished with my customers' driveways and come home to finish clearing up our own driveway when passionate, hugging, obsessed lady comes over waving her arms around at me. Since that's pretty long to type each time, we'll just call her Entitled Mother as always. "Excuse me?" Shutting off the engine so I can hear her, I say, "Yes, what's up?" "Would you mind plowing my driveway? There's been so much snow this week and I just haven't been able to keep on top of shoveling it." I don't have time to do a full cleanup as I have to go to class soon, but I can get it opened up enough that you can get out, and I'll come back after class and get the rest if you want. This is how much I usually charge, but since I don't have time to do a proper job this morning, I'll do it for half price. "You're joking, right? How can you take advantage of a single mom like this? If I could afford to pay someone to plow my driveway, I would. You disgust me. I asked you to do me a favor as a neighbor, but you have to try and make a quick buck off of everything. I can't believe you're this lazy that you'd buy a machine like this to plow your small driveway and won't even help your neighbors out. Your generation is hopeless." Bear in mind, this woman is no more than 5 years older than me. Pretty sure she's still part of my generation. You're right, it is overkill for my driveway. That's why I have about 20 people in this neighborhood paying me to do theirs as well. This is a kind of business for me, to make some extra cash while I'm in school, and if everyone else is paying me, why should I do yours for free? "I bet your mommy and daddy pay for all your schooling anyway. You don't need the money." She's not wrong. My parents busted their asses and saved up probably 3 times as much what was necessary to put me through school, to which I am forever grateful. But that doesn't mean I don't have other living expenses I need to pay for. So what if they did? Diesel fuel for this thing isn't free, and I'm just asking for enough to cover that and some compensation for my time, which is pretty much how any other business operates. I don't think it's unreasonable of me to charge for my services.
Your parents probably pay for that too. Wait till they realize what a brat you are and cut you off financially. Then you'll see what life is all about.
This really rubbed me the wrong way because my parents have paid for a lot of stuff in my life, which, again, I am very grateful for. But since they were helping me pay off my truck while I was in school, I didn't feel like I owned it yet. I know it sounds silly, but that tractor was the first major thing I ever bought entirely with my own money without my parents' help, and I was very proud of it because of that. I was done dealing with her at this point and just went back to work cleaning up my driveway and then went to class. Unfortunately, I have to walk past her house going to and from school, so on my way back, I walk past her house and her bus is stuck real bad in the driveway. Like, it has gotten stuck and then slid sideways partly onto her front lawn. She's outside trying to dig out the back wheels, and when she sees me, she explodes.
I couldn't get my kids to daycare because of you and missed work because of it.
It was 11:20 when I talked to her that morning. Who doesn't have their kids in daycare already by that point? Also, people are usually at work by then too. I just ignored her and went inside. For the next few days, it continued to snow relentlessly, and I continued making an absolute fortune, by college kid standards, off of the storm. It was so bad some days, I had to go back out after class and clear the driveways again. Everyone was more than happy to pay and tip me both times, and one lady even made me a thermos full of hot chocolate to keep me warm. My tractor didn't have a cab, obviously, with the extra people who usually did it themselves also calling me and asking me to bail them out on top of my usual route. I was doing pretty well. Every time I'd come home, I'd always see entitled mother trying unsuccessfully to dig herself out, but she just couldn't deal with the heavy wet snow the city plows would push onto her driveway from the road on her own. I felt bad for her, but whatever. If she was gonna be rude to me, it was not my problem. Eventually, she flagged me down one day and tells me that she'll give me whatever I want if I'll just please come and dig her out. Apparently, her work was threatening to fire her if she kept calling in because of the snow and not being able to get her kids to daycare. I did it for her and she paid. No tip, which is understandable with her situation, but did apologize for being so rude and now understood the value behind what I was doing. She still took care of her snow on her own most of the time after that, but she did ask me to help her out on occasion when it got really bad, which I did get paid for. I never had any issues with her after that, and I think she's learned her lesson. This story's called Entitled Mother Invades the Library. Longtime lurker of this subreddit, first time posting, hope everything is formatted okay here. Here's our cast of not so lovable characters.
Entitled Mother!
Me, and Entitled Mother's gaggle hellion children. Let's get on to the story. This happened last night, and I wrote down the details right after so I wouldn't forget any details. So I work at a public library, and this is my 3rd year working here. I love my job for the most part, and it's lots of fun because I get to work with books and all that fun stuff. But every once in a while, I just get a lot of really crappy patrons coming in. Some of them are entitled, sure, but this entitled mother takes the cake for the worst one. I know that I'm about to deal with a bad group as soon as I hear what sounds like a stampede of water buffalo coming down the stairs. I work in the basement section, joined by the sounds of screaming small children. Enter 7 children, all filing in one by one. I thought they would never end. I try to reassure myself that I can do this, but boy was I wrong. Entitled mother comes to the desk and asks to get the library cards for her 3 youngest children, a trio trio of triplets. Easy enough. I give her the form and wait for her to come back with it filled out. One of her hellion children starts to try to rob me of all the decorations we have scattered around my area, which was exhausting by itself because it seemed like she had a new thing in her hand every 5 seconds. And obviously, Entitled Mother wouldn't help because her kids were angels. Entitled Mother comes back and gives me the forms for her triplets, and I start to fill them out when I realize something is off. All 3 of the triplets have the exact same name. I tried asking her if this was correct, and she said, "Of course, can't you read?" Like, yes, I can read, but I was just trying to clarify because naming 3 of your kids the same thing isn't really common. On top of that, she keeps referring to them by their middle names and expects me to magically know which kid I'm referring to. Like, come on, lady, I don't know your kids' middle names. Not my fault. I proceed to start transferring the information she filled out into the computer system. After a minute or so, Entitled Mother is glaring at me. I wonder what is wrong, but keep working anyway.
You're going too slow. You need to hurry up.
Transferring information takes some time, especially when it's the same flipping thing over and over. I'm going as fast as I can because I want her and her hellion spawn to leave. I eventually get done and give her the triplets cards. They go away from the desk for a few minutes, but I am not safe yet. All 7 children suddenly run at the counter and put like 40 movies on the desk that they all want to check out. They all are trying to give me their library card at once. The other 4 kids already had ones apparently, and are all screaming at me. By this point, my body has already gone into survival mode. Entitled Mother standing by while all of this is happening, not even bother trying to control her children. I check out the movies to the little hellions one by one, all while Entitled Mother is still glaring at me. She must think I have super speed or something because my body was in fight or flight mode and I was checking them out as fast as I can. The hellion from before that was trying to steal stuff comes behind the counter while I was distracted and noticed I had candy hidden behind the desk. For good boys and girls, of course, of which they were not. All 7 kids try to run behind the counter and I have to stop them from messing everything up. I give them the candy and they eventually leave the area behind the counter. Note that Entitled Mother still wasn't helping at all.
Thanks for your help, I guess. It wasn't very quick.
You're welcome. After this, I am finally free from the grasp of my librarian duties. My coworker walks in and I tell her my tale of woe. I am finally safe, but that was the most energy draining experience of my professional life. Overall, this experience only lasted about 20 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. I hope to never encounter them again. You guys won't know this, but somewhere in the middle of the story, my food got delivered, and I ate the best gyro roll I've ever had, and I don't care if it's pronounced gyro, it's gyro to me. That is not very relevant, but I thought you guys should know. Damasi's has really good gyro. And, this story. That sounds like a terrifying experience and why I would never be a librarian. I mean, being a librarian, I guess, like the actual title, like, of a librarian, you usually have to go to, like, a lot of school. I think you need a master's degree, kind of like a teacher. But anyways, besides the whole schooling requirements, I would never want to work in a library because I would just not be able to handle the stress of having all these obnoxious, snotty kids ruining books, man. Obviously, there are good kids that are well behaved, but when you have that many, oh man, and you're not a very good parent, there's hell wherever they go. Just hell. This story's called Entitled Mother Gets Pissed Because Her Baby Didn't Win a Prize at the Church Fair. Hey y'all, me again. Here is yet another tales from my volunteering at church. This happened about a year ago, but isn't as bad as the other story, but it's the same Karen. Anyway, on to the story. I had to cover 3 games total until the volunteers that covered the other 2 showed up. They were all near each other though, so that's a plus. Anyway, I had to cover a dice roll game, a game called Troll Doctor doctor, and sadly, goldfish pong. Bit of a side note, if you ever had to deal with managing a goldfish game, then you know how many entitled parents show up. Okay, back to the story. Today was the last day, close to closing, so we were packed with kids. I had like 5 kids waiting on each game, but on Goldfish, I noticed a kid getting antsy and he started cutting kids in line. Now, I was told not to let kids cut in line as it may upset others, so I kindly asked him to go back to where he was, which he did until he left the line. I thought he was going to get food from the food area, so I was managing my games, going along well, until Karen came by and this heck ensued.
Excuse me?
I didn't notice her since she had a little kid and thought she was talking to the one managing the bouncy castle, so I kept letting kids play, but then the entitled mother pushed the game backwards, which was easy since it was a foldable table, and finally got my attention. Ma'am, please don't do that. You can knock over the tank and kill the fish.
I don't care. Why did you tell my baby he can't play?
Because he was cutting the kids in line who wanted to play before him, and we are limited on supplies. Now, stupidly at this moment, I decided to remove one of the dead fish, and the second I did, I realized I fudged up.
Why did you kill that fifth in front of me and my baby? He deserves the fifth now for compensation before I get my dear friend who runs this place.
Her son was smugly smiling at this. First of all, it was dead from when you shook the table. Second of all, what's her name then? Now, I'm going to use fake names for this.
Deborah?
No, her name is Susan.
That's what I meant, Susan, and I go back to high school.
Oh, that's a shame that her name is Madison.
Oh, she is also a friend of mine.
Now, I knew she was trying to lie to me, so I said, okay, she's over by the food tent. Go talk to her. 15 minutes go by, I'm down to 5-ish fish, and kids are just watching them, but they see a dead one, and I told them I'll remove it, but since I remembered Karen, I put it into one of the plastic bags of water, then entitled mother goes by.
Madison said I should get a fifth for compensation.
Now, this being a full-on adult that also teaches at CCD, volunteers are the teachers, who Madison knows I hate, she would always skip over important lessons and just play games, I knew the dead fish was a good plan. Here you go.
Thank you. Now, was that so hard?
Yeah, idiot. You should have given us the fish before since Madison is Mommy's best friend forever.
We got you your fifth, now let's go home.
As far as I know, they didn't realize it was dead until they got home and the festival shut down. That was pretty good. That would make a good petty revenge story as well. Giving them a dead fish instead of or a malicious compliance too. That fits so many categories. This is a very far-reaching story in terms of Reddit categories. But yes, entitled mothers at fairs are horrible. I guess entitled parents in general because, oh boy, there's just so much potential. So much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.